kick off whenever you like.
Yeah, could just kind of like dive into it because I want to keep it nice and informal. Hello. This is going to be a little video about the Comic Writer's Journal and how it works. And you can tell I'm trying to keep this like nice and low key, not going too into it. It's not too polished because I think that's kind of how I want the book to be, really. Hey, design. it all kind of ties together. So I've got like a little section at the start of the book which talks you through the process, and then the rest of the book is a bunch of blank templates that you can kind of do what you want with, really. But what I'm going to do here today, I've got Nick behind the camera helping me out. Hello, Nick's here as well. And I'm going to go through the intro section at the start of the book, which introduces the process. So I'm just going to talk you through it here.
Cool, sounds good.
Right, we'll have a check. So, yes, the Comic Writer's Journal. Full disclosure at the start of this, I never wanted to tell anyone how to make a comic. Like, I really cannot stress that enough. There is no one way of making a comic. That is not the point of this book. I'm not even trying to tell you how to make a comic the John Locke way. I'm just saying that over the years I've been doing this, which is over a decade now, this method has proved quite useful for me. I've put it into a notebook form, a journal form. If you want, you can tear it apart, you can do whatever you damn well please with it. But sometimes, I don't know, having a framework can be useful, particularly if you're trying to plan out a big plot line. Regardless of the length of your story, you want to make sure you hit all these beats, you want to make sure your story does everything you set out to achieve, basically. So, this book gives you a framework to help you achieve that. It does not, and cannot, and will not help you write the dialogue, actually bring the emotion, the heart, the action. That's on you, but by following the method in this book, you should end up with a series of tools which will help your plot just be as the best it can damn well be. The first thing you're trying to do, though, is you are trying to write a summary. So a summary is basically, what is your story about? This is really getting down to it in a nutshell, because believe me, when I was younger, I had like a bunch of stories in my head, really big ideas, big ambition. I could not describe them to anyone. So being able to describe a story first to yourself is really the most vital step. It really is. Because
it's like getting your thoughts in a row, isn't it? Like getting your ideas down, and then you've got a structure from what you can work with.
100%. And it's honestly, if you can't sell your story to yourself, you're not going to be able to sell it to anyone else. And when I say sell, sometimes yes, for money would be nice, but also when you're selling an idea, you're impressing someone, you're trying to bring them on board. So even if you're just telling a friend about your story, you want to be able to do it in a very concise manner. So what I challenge you to do is, on the first page, what is your story about in one sentence? What is it about in a paragraph? If you need to, you can kind of, jot down with this bullet pointing section here, key things that must happen in your story. And the key question might be the ethical dilemma at the heart of your story. Even if your story is about nothing more adventurous than a cat desperately in need of a hat, there is often a question. Maybe that hat is a metaphor for that cat's burgeoning sense of ennui as he approaches middle age.
Or the PTSD of something that happened in its past.
When he didn't have a hat.
When he didn't, yes.
Yes, indeed. Yes. He's kind of processing that now. So, Nick, hypothetically speaking, what should we make a story about? What should this story be?
Probably a centaur.
It's a centaur. Great. I'm so glad you went right where my heart was calling. Okay, so our story is about a centaur, and what do we want the centaur to achieve on this journey, or what is the centaur after? What does the centaur want?
He doesn't want to be a centaur anymore.
He doesn't want to be a centaur. Okay. Okay. I'm liking this. So I might say summary, one sentence: a centaur seeks magical release from the unrelenting nightmare that is his life.
Yes, that's about right.
Okay, right, okay. So I'm gonna write that down.
Okay. Let's watch him write it down.
Is his life.
Indeed.
Okay, and for the sake of this video, I'm not going to go into writing that in a paragraph, but I would urge you to take the time to go, okay, let's flesh that out a little bit more. So my paragraph might be, a centaur embarks on a magical quest to be turned back into a human and a horse after the grim union that brought them together.
Right.
To do this, he needs to find like a wizard, like a sorcerer, or something.
Agreed.
So, and when it came to like the key developments, bullet pointing this now, I might say, okay, development number 1, Key development. It could be something as simple as a centaur is unhappy.
Yeah, starting point.
I'm thinking key developments might be the centaur has to meet a wizard.
Yeah.
So we have to meet the wizard. The wizard, I'm thinking, doesn't want to give up the kind of the power, doesn't want to give up the ability to turn back into a normal person rather than a kind of godless horror. And then key development, I would say the centaur has to defeat the wizard to get the power back. And the key question at the heart of this is, can this centaur achieve his heart's desire, which is to become a human again? Indeed. Or maybe he never was a human, maybe just he wants to become a human.
Sure.
Or so that is your summary. So the goal is that by, again, everything we're talking about here is quite ridiculous, but at the heart of it, most fiction is ridiculous. let's be honest. I mean, that's why we do it. It's wonderful. It's not reality. It's a bit silly. Okay. So you go through this process. You have now created a summary. In reality, no other human being will ever see that document, but that is now for you your sky-high view of what you want your story to achieve. This is everything you're going to set up to do. Now you know these things, you know your key developments, you know the question you're trying to answer, you can dive into the story proper. So, step 2. This is where we start turning some of these wild and wonderful ideas into an overview. So, you'll notice here, the page is divided into a large section for the writing of thoughts, and a little bit down the bottom where you can scribble notes. At this point, I would urge you to leave this column on the left blank. We're going to come back to that in a bit. So, I guess we could also write a title. What are we going to call this? A Centaur's Journey?
I like that, yeah.
The Quest for Hoof? Hoof or Lies? A Centaur's Journey, right.
There we go.
Okay, Hoof.
That's why you're the writer, I'm the cameraman.
Hoof or Lies, : A Centaur's Journey.
God, that's good.
I'm so glad we got centaurs into this.
I know how much you love them.
I was worried we were going to be respectable for a moment. Okay, so this is the point, and this is actually one of my favourite points of writing a story. This is where it is pure creativity. So any idea, no matter how big or stupid, you want to get it on the page now. Because when you're starting a comic, it can be quite daunting to think, how am I going to get all these moments in order? How am I going to kind of... If you start at the beginning, sometimes starting at the beginning is not always the best way to write a story, because, God no, maybe, right in my head now, all I can think of is, I want this centaur to kick the wizard off the top of his tower.
Oh, brilliant.
This is something I feel has to happen. Yes. This is quite important now. That is the only clear scene I have in my head right now. I have, everything else is very nebulous. It could be anything.
Up for grabs. Anything is free.
So don't write it in chronological order. Just get an idea down. So right off the bat, I'm thinking, so the centaur confronts the wizard after an altercation, shall we say.
Okay.
The centaur kicks the wizard off the tower.
Amazing.
Never realised how self-conscious I was about my handwriting.
Oh, it looks good. I was about to comment on how good it looks.
Oh, thank you, yeah. Thank you, you're very kind.
Yes. You did not pay me to say that.
So, stop saying platitudes. Come over here, I'm going to show you something, right? Okay. Woo. So you'll notice that everything is dotted. So if you need to, so we could I could go into greater detail. I could say anger, that's an emotion, kind of killing the wizard breaks the curse.
Okay.
Something like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing down random ideas here. I'm kind of saying that a centaur in this scenario, being a centaur is a curse. I appreciate not all our viewers may agree, some may consider it a wonderful blessing.
Indeed.
Okay. So these lines are dotted because if you now think, you know what, as scribbly and messy as that is, I think I have successfully summarised what I want to happen in that moment. Sometimes calling something a scene, I personally find can be a bit kind of misleading. I prefer, it's a moment, it's an instance. I know something is happening, it might not be as complete as a scene. In my eyes, what if I have this very clear view in mind that the wizard and the centaur have to lock eyes, and there's this moment, I want this kind of comedic beat where they're giving each other a death stare.
Yeah, that wouldn't be considered a scene.
Definitely not a scene, not a scene, but that is a moment, and I'm that would have to go down.
Linchpin moment you want in the story.
So I'm drawing a line now, a thick line across the dotted one, because I now consider that to be a moment.
I see.
Again, there's no hard and fast rules here. It's just what you think works. Okay. So I could note down here, I'm just going to write, because I'm just getting some thoughts out here, centaur, arrow, sexy? Question mark? Yeah. Just leave it there. Just a note.
We need to consider that.
Just a note. It's not part of anything bigger. So in this tutorial section, you've got a few pages here to play around, because this tutorial is going to take you through the process of writing an 8-page comic. So kind of a short little comic here.
A sort of standard format, isn't it? An 8-page, like in terms of a short story in a comic.
Yeah. It's quite common, I would say, because Nick and I, our background's kind of in like independent comic scene, and you'd often find that kind of like diving into a 22-page comic, particularly if you're just starting out, is a bit daunting. That's quite a big thing to deal with. So my very first story I ever wrote was an 8-pager, and that kind of worked quite well for me. Step 3 is using the scene planner.
Oh.
Now, don't worry if this video, isn't giving you the nuance you really want from this. The book kind of talks you through the process. This is where I would suggest that you bounce back and forth a bit between the overview you're writing, because I know I said we were going to leave that left-hand column blank. This is where that's going to come in handy. And this section, which is the scene planner. The way I've laid out this template, it's designed so that you are not writing in a linear fashion. You are writing in these little boxes. These boxes are a bit like, I know, you can think of them as like post-it notes, if you will. So say we go for a scene. I'm going to go for the very last scene in the story. So I'm going to say the centaur returns home.
You're starting here because you hate centaurs.
I'm starting here because I hate centaurs, and I really want to focus on the moment where our centaur is now a human.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
So, again, scene, moment, call it what you will. We could split hairs forever on the terminology. It's really just, it's a chunk of story, and, might not necessarily be tied to a location. It's just, this is an element, a chapter, a DVD style chapter.
Yes.
Yeah. If folks watching this can remember DVDs. So what I suggest is you write a little title in this box. This is where the title will go. Bearing in mind that the only person who will ever see this is you. So you can call it anything. You could be The Centaur Returns Home. You could go Crisis, The Tower. You can just come up with junk like this. And then give a little summary. Don't go into massive detail, but give a little summary of what needs to happen in that scene. This is what I mean about not writing in order, and why, I've kind of started on the right-hand side of a page here, because it does not matter. These are post-it notes. We're going to move them around later to fit this into a bigger plot. So I'm going to say the centaur returns home. So I'm going to say, satisfied, the centaur leaves the tower. And in my head right now, I reckon that is going to be the last thing that happens in the story.
Okay.
I'm just thinking about that. So this is where I would say, knowing that we're working on an 8-page comic, I am going to say that I reckon the centaur returning home is 1 page. So much so that I've written 1 page down there. The crisis, I'm thinking, that's where the centaur is having like a crisis of existence. Like, I'm not happy. The centaur is unhappy. And I'm thinking, that could well be the start of the story, for example. So I'm going to say the centaur is unhappy, and just off the top of my head, because I'm just spitballing, you can go back and change this later. I'm going to say that's going to be 2 pages.
Okay.
And this is where I suggest bouncing back and forth between this and the overview. And this is why we have the left-hand column here, because this is where I would use the left-hand column to start jotting down ideas about how many pages you think a section should be.
I see.
So I would say the centaur confronts the wizard. After an altercation, the centaur kicks the wizard off the tower. Well, I mean, this is where we start going, okay, I think there could be some comedic beats here. So I'm going to say 3 pages.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'm feeling ambitious. I'm going to say 3 pages. It's also why I really like working in pencil. Now, to be fair, if you prefer working digitally, clearly having a physical notebook, what are you doing here? I'm here because we like something physical, we like using pencil. I love using pencil. It is so liberating because I can just go back, rub stuff out, change it again. Change it whenever I want. So you may have noticed that on the kind of planner here, we have these circles. And the reason we have these circles is this is where you can reorder and number your scenes. So I think the centaur is unhappy. Congrats, I think that's scene 1. The tower, well, we don't quite get there. This isn't a complete process. I haven't written there. So I say the centaur is unhappy, goes on a journey. The tower. So the tower would link back to where we had in the overview, the centaur confronts the wizard. And so this is where the nuance would come. So confrontation. So the tower, confrontation. We kind of were saying that was going to be 3 pages. So right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 2 pages remaining because we know this is an 8-page comic. So I'm going to say that the journey, which I'm kind of imagining is the journey to find the wizard. Let's say 2 pages.
Yeah.
Let's kind of put that down.
That seems fair.
Okay, so now we have 4 scenes in this 8-page comic. And right off the bat, I'm going, crisis has to be first, the journey has to be second, confrontation has to be third, and the centaur returning home has to be 4.
Fantastic.
Okay, very, very loose, very rough. To be fair, it's only an 8-page story. You might not have that many scenes, but I think in my head, that's where I'm getting the structure now of my story. Now we're moving on to the page planner. Now the page planner is perhaps one of my favourite parts about this journal. And before I created the journal, I have been using this model, like more than anything else in the book, I've been using the page planner religiously for like 10 years. Basically, the goal here is you are going to write 1 sentence for every page in your comic. If you get to the point where you go like, gosh, I can't describe what happens on this page in 1 sentence, I might suggest to you there is too much happening on that page. It's a wonderful limiting process. So Nick, if you come on over now, I'm going to usher you over here. This page planner is specifically designed for an 8-page comic. We have some other versions in the book which will go for longer comics. We might have like a 22-pager. We also have a freeform section. Looking down the left here, you will see that we have all the pages numbered, and these symbols are going to show where the page turns full. This is very important in comics if you are trying to surprise the reader, have a comedic beat, have a surprise. For example, in comics that are read from left to right, even numbers are on the left. You know, so double page spread. Page 1, gasp, who's that under the mask? Turn the page, big reveal, left-hand side of a spread, gasp, it's you. Nefarion, who's a nefarious fairy in the centaur world. That's actually, I like that. Yeah, Nefarion, we'll go for that.
Yeah, make a note of that.
We'll make a note of that. So,
if only had a journal somewhere.
If only I had a journal to record my thoughts. Continuing along here, we have the scene section. So this is where you might write these little DVD style kind of chapter headings, which is going back to the scene planner. That's where we get those titles. Again, they don't have to be sensible. They don't even have to make a lot of sense. They only have to make sense to you. So based on our structure from before, I'm kind of picturing, and this is where the dotted line's coming. So we said we'd start with the centaur is unhappy, 2 pages. I'm going to draw a thick line across there. We then had the journey, 2 pages. We then had the confrontation for 3 and the return home for 1. So we have a little column on the left here. Sorry, Nick's coming around. He's coming around. We've got a little column on the left here. I've added that so that if you want, you can shade in or colour, you know, if you've got some crayons to hand, the different sections to help delineate them. So we basically have crisis, journey, confrontation, return. And if you look down here, these are the last kind of, this is, you know, where kind of like the last of the arcane symbols come in. We have 2 columns here. And this is all described in the tutorial section, but we basically have the splash column and we have the double page spread. And this is where pagination is really important. So in comics, if I want to do like a splash image, that would be like a full page image, you know, just bang, a big kind of feature moment of something really cool happen. We use these moments sparingly because they have a lot of power in storytelling, but you've got to know where they fall. So this is why we have these little symbols. So if I wanted one of these to be a splash, you would colour in one of these little circles. So you know what, I'm feeling adventurous. Let's say that is going to be a splash.
So that's the first page of the confrontation scene.
Is a splash.
Is a splash.
So we know that page 5 is a splash. It's going to be a single image filling the whole page. And we also know, thanks to the pagination symbol here, that it's falling on the right-hand side of a spread. If we want to do a double page spread, so if you wanted to have the action spread across 2 pages, that could be one single image, like the only way to make a splash more impressive is a double splash, like make it absolutely massive. Or maybe we want our comic panels to flow across 2 pages. That would also be a double page spread. This is where we have the other symbol. So again, you can't have a double page spread that falls across a page turn. So we know that pages 2 and 3, that's a spread. If we wanted that to be a double page spread, we would shade in that little one there. We also know that because of kind of like where I've been breaking up my scenes, we know that our options for a double page spread kind of limited.
Really only in confrontation.
Really only in confrontation. So this is how I would advise you break down your story. I now want you to write 1 sentence per page. So right off the bat, I've said that, just because I'm kind of messing around, I'm drunk with power, I was saying that page 5 was going to be a splash.
Yeah.
So to keep that up, I'm going to say, you know what, that is going to be a full page picture of the Wizard's Tower.
Very good. That sounds good.
Sure.
Establishing shot, if you will.
And establishing. That's not what I said.
Sorry.
That's not what I said. Who's in charge here?
Yeah, you're the writer. I'm the
Thank you.
I'll stay quiet. Yeah.
Okay. Full page picture of the Wizard's Tower. Confrontation. Now again, this is a short story, so clearly there's not going to be a lot of time here for character growth, but I like the idea that we'll have 1 page of the centaur and the wizard talking. Wizard refuses to help.
And of course, at this point, you'd also be constantly looking back at your overview and your scenes to like...
Bouncing back and forth, yeah, because this is where you can rub out, you can change things if stuff doesn't work. Final page of confrontation, because look at this, I called it confrontation and, the scene's already over. I'm thinking humour, I want to go comedic. I want them to give each other really intense stares. I'm kind of imagining the 2 of them will have a close-up of one eye, of the centaur's eyes, we'll have a close-up of the wizard's eyes, we'll go back and forth, and then the wizard will get kicked off the tower.
Sounds amazing.
This is what I'm thinking. So I will just say, for the time being, death stares. That means something to me. And also, we can write notes down here. So I'm going to write a little note here. What's this?
What is this?
Centaur equals sexy.
Got this back, which is good. Yeah. Maintaining that thought.
Actually, in hindsight, this might be the core question at the heart of the show. So we're going to come back to that. Okay, so when you are done with this, you should now have a breakdown of everything that's happening on every page of your comic.
Incredible.
I will freely admit that this is more of an optional step. This might not be of use to you, but the larger your comic, the larger your cast, you may want to keep track of your characters as they come and go between scenes. So the way you would do that is you can, give one of these little, hello, let's, smiley face. Who's that?
It looks like a centaur.
It could be a centaur, yeah, hang on.
Was that a wizard? It looks a lot like a centaur to me.
Thanks. Now it's a centaur.
Perfect.
You're only getting the top of his head.
Yeah, so, of course, yeah, it's like a bust.
Okay, so we'll say centaur. Wizard.
Wizard. You have 2 characters.
Okay.
Incredible.
I'm a writer, not an artist.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
I wasn't going to say anything.
So we know that our scenes are crisis, journey, confrontation, return. Okay, and we know that the centaur is in every scene, so I'm colouring in all these dots. The confrontation, the wizard is only in 1. Now again, freely admit, it's an optional it's an optional section. Might not apply to everyone, depending on the complexity of your story, but it might be useful to have if you're trying to make sure that all the various characters in your cast get kind of like a fair shake. So the final step is to turn your ideas for a scene into individual panels. So, I don't know, just as like CERN and the Large Hadron Collider, they're forever kind of breaking down particles into smaller and smaller fundamental building blocks of reality. The smallest building block of reality in a comic is a panel. So this is where we've got to get the action now down into individual panels. Now, this is where it comes down to me not telling you how to write a comic, because this is really where a lot of your style and your nuance as a storyteller is going to come out. You might hear or have read that the average page has 5 to 6 panels. And while that is kind of fair, rules are there to be broken. And for every example you might find of a comic perfectly using 5 panels per page, you will probably find one that uses 26 panels and it's brilliant. I'm not going to do this for every scene in the comic because it's only an example, but right now I'm thinking about the one that's making me laugh the most, and that's the wizard and the centaur having a confrontation. This is like the kind of denouement of their epic battle across 2 pages, because that's as long as they've been on screen together. So like I said, I want a kind of a comedic beat. I want them to kind of like, we'll have a close-up, a close-up, a close-up, and, you know, kind of, then it's over. So I'm thinking, I want to see the centaur chugging a magical potion.
Okay.
And this is the thing that's going to turn him into a human.
Right.
So I'm thinking centaur chugging a magical potion. I'm also thinking I want a long shot of the wizard plummeting to his death, like down this from the tower. Long shot of wizard falling to death. I will say external, because it's an external shot to the tower. And then I'm thinking close up of centaur's eyes, close up of wizard's eyes. Oh, it's writing itself. This is brilliant, yeah. Close up of the wizard's eyes, and then I want to see the centaur kicking the wizard.
Of course.
Centaur kicking wizard.
This is all gold.
And right now we know that based on our page planner, we know that this is 1 page, because that's when really we're devoting only 1 page to telling this moment. I'm thinking high comedy. So we're thinking 1 page, 5 panels. I want to see 5 kind of horizontal panels. I want to see kind of like very wide screen, you know, equal spacing. This is how I'm picturing it. Using the dotted line approach from before, because this is a page, I'm going to draw a thick line to say that that is a scene. And you may have noticed that these are all written out of order, because I was just getting them down onto the page as I kind of thought of them. So, tell you what, Nick, if you want to pop around here for a second.
Wheel around again.
So I'm thinking the conclusion of this 5, poke me in the ear with the microphone, yeah. The conclusion is the centaur chugging the magic potion. Then, of course, we have the wizard falling to their death. That's penultimate. Centaur kicking the wizard is 3. So in panel 3, we have the centaur doing something active. So now we have panels 1 and 2 to work out. So I don't want to have, this is just a personal choice, I don't want to have 2 panels in a row which are focusing on the centaur's point of view or action.
Makes sense.
So I'm thinking panel 1 is close up of the centaur, okay, here we go. This is how it works. Okay, 1 page, panel 1, close up of the centaur's eyes, panel 2, close up of the wizard's eyes, panel 3, centaur kicking the wizard, 4, cut to the exterior shot of the tower, long shot of the wizard falling to death, panel 5, centaur chugging a magical potion like an idiot.
Sounds amazing.
This is where the flavour comes in. I'd almost say that could be a silent page. And that is entirely done just through, I'm thinking like very narrow comedic, like kick. Maybe we'll have a scream. And I want that centaur to just be like chugging this potion like an absolute idiot. So that is the tutorial section of the book. And if you go through those stages, I would say with a modicum more care than I just put into it here, you're going to end up with 3 key resources which will kind of stand the test of time. You're going to have a summary, which tells you what your story is about, the key developments and the question. You're going to have an overview, and this is the fine detail now. This will say that everything that happens in your comic, you know, me going on about, I think this should be comedic, I think this should be silent, that's when you put it into the overview. And the final resource you'll have is a completed page planner. So now, you've got to write a script. Like, maybe this is the easy part, maybe this is the horrible part. I can't help you with this. But what you do have is a summary, an overview, and a page plan that gives you this watertight, just kind of rock solid idea of what is happening on every page of your comic. So I always find this moment quite liberating, because now I don't need to worry about the structure of my story. All I need to worry about is writing the best script I can. If I want to start on page 1 of my script, I'm like, fine, I will. I'll progress chronologically. If, as we did in our crossover, I get this random idea in my head where, you know what, right this second, I can't think of any way to write the opening crisis of this story, because I'm just not there yet. I haven't got to the point of setting up the centaur village, because I think there's going to be a centaur village. But one thing I have is crystal clear in my head is this comedic encounter between the wizard and the centaur. So now I'm like, I'm going to start there. And I know because of my page plan that is page 7. And I know because of my panel planner that I know what those panels are going to be. So I could now dive in and just start writing that scene, that moment, and not worry about anything else. And I can come back to those later and know that what I wrote on page 7 is going to support what I eventually write on page 1. That is the method in a nutshell, basically. And the rest of the journal, once you get past the kind of tutorial section, is just blank templates. We've got tons of all the different varieties, plenty of space to bring multiple stories to life. The journal, it's not just one story, there's plenty of space for a ton of ideas. And like I said, under the page planners, we've got 8 pages. We've got a free-form one. If you want to write your kind of 100, 200-page graphic novel, go for it. Best of luck to you. And then we have kind of the 22 pages. So, you know, if you're going for more of a classical American style kind of issue format. And that's what a 22-pager looks like. So yeah, as I would say, this is not the only way to tell comics, you know, but I think it's a method to help you tell comics your way, to help you make comics your way. And as you get familiar with it, you can chop and change it and make it your own. And so yeah, it's not for me to tell you how to do it, but if you ever need a hand, or if you just want to kind of refine your existing process, maybe this will be of use.